Hello, welcome to February. This is the month that we're talking about outlining. So, planning your novel. There's all sorts of different ways about going about this, and really you have to find something that works best for you. The whole point of this is that the outline is going to be helpful. If it's not helpful, if it's not a good tool, then you need to do it some other way. So, for me, I'm a little bit between being like a super duper outliner and wanting to kind of write by the seat of my pants. And so I do something kind of in the middle. I always do I call them story maps, where I map out the big destinations in my story, like the fence posts, if you will, the things that I definitely want to happen, and sort of the big story beats of the plot. But I do allow myself some freedom as to exactly how I get there. And honestly, I always change while I'm writing. I always think of something, oh, hey, that's a little bit better. Let's try it this way. And of course, if you change one thing, it changes a lot of things down the road. And so you don't need to be married to your outline. It's not set in stone. It's actually a good thing to let yourself have a little bit of wiggle room, I think, because as you're getting into the story and you get to know the characters and the setting and the plot better, you often have better ideas, things that are more interesting than what you thought of to begin with. One of the biggest things I'd say as well is just make sure that your outline is organized very well. Whether that means using actual sticky notes. I've seen a lot of people do that. Index cards is another one. Like you write a scene on each index card or whatever, or a sticky note. I personally use software. In the past, I have just used Word documents. I currently use something called Scrivener. It allows for a lot more organization. So it's like having a word processor, but then also having a bunch of tools to organize your writing in your book or whatever built into it. So I liked using that. It wasn't too expensive. You can get it for Mac or Windows. So might be something worth looking into if you like that sort of thing. If I had physical things, I think I would lose them. They would get smudged, whatever. So I just like having the security of having everything backed up on my computer and having it all ready to go. I also like putting my stuff in the cloud, so backing it up on things like Google Drive and Dropbox, making sure that it's safe no matter what happens. So with outlining, just making sure that you know the structure of your story, whether it's going to follow a more particular traditional structure, something like a 3-act structure or whatever, so that you can give your story some shape. And how much shape you start out with is up to you. I can say some planning is going to pay off. And even if you are a pantser who just likes to kind of figure things out, it's at least good to know where you start, what the inciting incident is, so what kind of sparks the entire rest of the plot, and where you're going to end up at the end. So what kind of ending you're shooting for, the character growth that needs to go on, or the plot development that needs to go on. It's a good idea to figure out at least the beginning and the end, and you can fill in the middle. Though I honestly think my personal opinion is that more planning is better. That it's a good idea to have some structure to make sure that you keep yourself organized. Because honestly, writing a novel is a lot to keep track of. It's so many words, and over such a long period of time, you honestly just forget certain things. Unless you sit down and write it all back to back over a few weeks, which I mean is possible, but often life gets in the way. And I've had novels that I've strung along for literally years before I finally get around to finishing them. I've often will have ones where I start out and I'm really excited and I work on it for a few months really strongly, and then something gets in the way, the holidays happen, whatever, and I don't revisit it for a few years, and then I have to write the second half of it further down the road, and I have to kind of remind myself, ooh, where was I going with this? That's where it's really good to have a map or an outline so that you don't forget what you were thinking. So please just let me know what questions you have about outlining. What do you think is going to work best for you? What kind of style? I put some different story structures up, and hopefully you can find a story structure that works for you and just go run with it. Remember, it's not set in stone, but it is good to have something to start with. Happy writing.